Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here and welcome to the Gameweek 13 deadline stream. Right, so we streamed for a short while yesterday to cover the press conferences, but today will be the deadline stream, the proper deadline stream. We are 3.5 hours early today, but that's because today's stream is slightly special. We're gonna do something a little different. So basically, if you guys clicked on the title for today's video or today's stream, you would see that we are doing a charity stream today. So that's what's going to happen today. Everything from today's stream, super chats, memberships, everything will go to charity, just to kind of launch the Christmas charity drive that we're doing. So basically, we're going to donate money to UNICEF. If you guys have been watching most of my videos as well, you would know that I will be doing a Christmas charity drive, right? To donate to UNICEF to help all those affected by the wars going on right now. So that's the purpose of today's stream. Of course, if you guys aren't subscribed already, if you do subscribe, you will be contributing to this cause as well. So I really do appreciate all the support. Right, so we're very early today, as I mentioned. Thanks for coming early as well. Sarif in the chat, yes, we are very early today. But the point is to kind of make the charity stream a little bit longer as well, so that we can raise more money for charity, right? So with all that aside, currently now, this is how my team looks, and I don't think it would look anything too different from this going into the deadline. We should get a couple of leaks closer to the deadline about whether Haaland starts, whether Darwin Núñez starts. That should come through a little bit closer to the deadline. I doubt we would stream until then, right? But we would probably stream for about an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half, right? And we'll see what news we get by then. But I doubt we will get anything too concrete. Liverpool are getting better at masking their leaks as well. So maybe at the end of the day we won't get anything, but we'll see what we get for Haaland and maybe Darwin Núñez for those of you who own him. So just to cover my team, I have Areola in goal. In the back line is Livramento, Medicash, and Gehi. Now, Medicash is flagged for now, but I don't think he will be an issue based on the tweets that I've been reading. He is in training, so because of that, I don't see any great worry with Medicash, so he will be in the team. And I'm pretty confident that he will start. If he doesn't, then I guess Tsimikas can come off the bench for him. Right, and then in midfield, I have Saka, Adingra, Son, Salah, and Bowen. So obviously the big one that a lot of us are concerned about is Jarrod Bowen. So I think based off of what we've read recently, I think that it's a case of Jarrod Bowen starting if he's fit. And if he's not fit, I don't think he gets any minutes off the bench, basically. So I think it's a situation where for those of us who own Jarrod Bowen, he should be safe enough to start, meaning start in our teams for game week 13. And if he doesn't get any minutes, we would just get our auto sub. So in my case, Archer would just come on automatically for Jarrod Bowen. Right? So that's the thinking behind starting Jarrod Bowen, even though I'm not certain whether he will start or not. I will get Archer off my bench for him. That's my speculation, of course. I see no reason really as to why Jarrod Bowen would come off the bench against Burnley if there's a slight chance that, you know, he's not fully fit. So I think over the festive period as well, they definitely want Jarrod Bowen to be fit and available during that stretch. So now that he's just got this injury, this a little bit of a situation with his knee, I don't see them risking him too much, right? So I think it's fine enough to start him. Up front, I have Haaland and Watkins. For now, I have the armband on Haaland. I don't think I would captain. I mean, for me, mainly it comes down to either Salah or Haaland, and therefore I think it has to be the player playing at home, right? So I'm gonna go with Haaland captain for now. Let's see what happens. The vice captain is on Salah. On the bench, I've kind of arranged it in order already. So Archer, as I mentioned, will be pretty important. He will come off the bench if Jarrod Bowen is not playing, right? So he's first on the bench. I have Tsimikas next, and then Taylor last on the bench. So there we go with my team, right? Let's get to some of your questions in the chat. Thank you everyone for coming early today as well. We are pretty early. I do understand that. So we're gonna try and stream a little bit longer, right, for charity as well. Right, if you guys aren't subscribed already, I will be doing a Christmas drive for those of you guys who just joined. So all you have to do is subscribe, and you will be contributing to the cause. All right. Kath then says, "What about Bowen?" Right. So I just covered that. And Nketiah to Edward is a good move. So Jesus is back. So now that Jesus is back, I think Nketiah is a bit of a risk. So I don't mind selling Nketiah this week. Edward is a decent alternative. I do think Edward is a decent alternative, but if I could go for Solanke, if you can afford Solanke, I would much rather have Solanke in the team. Start Tsimikas or Cash, I would start Medicash. Will Dalo start since Shaw is fit? So we don't really have any conclusive news on that, but I think there is a good chance Shaw could come straight back into the starting 11. So let's see what happens there. Planning to do Watkins to Solanke. 3-4-3 with Darwin and Haaland, 0 in the bank. I also have Mitoma and Bowen. I'm planning to do Mitoma to Mbeumo next week considering Bowen's status. Thoughts? So I do think like Watkins to Solanke is not as urgent as Mitoma to Mbeumo, because if you plan to do Mitoma and Mbeumo next week, who do you have playing in place of Mitoma this week? Right, he's an issue this week, and then next week Brighton will have quite a tough fixture against Chelsea away. So I don't think you would want Mitoma then as well. So if I were in your position, instead of doing Watkins to Solanke, what I would do is Mitoma to Mbeumo this week. Since Watkins can play right this week. Douglas Luiz to Cole Palmer. Yeah, I don't mind that move at all. I'm even thinking to bench Diaby for Archer. Wow. I wouldn't bench Diaby. Tottenham are missing quite a number of their centre backs. Romero still suspended. Van der Ven is injured. So I do think like it could be a day where Aston Villa get quite a couple of returns, right? So I don't mind those of you guys who do want to captain Watkins as well. I'm seeing some of you guys in the chat already suggesting whether to captain Watkins. I don't mind it at all. Louis says, thanks for the early stream. Thank you guys for coming early. Right, thank you for coming early. Joel says, Saka or Watkins, captaincy and option, although not on pens. Yeah, so as I just mentioned, I don't mind captaining Watkins. I don't mind captaining Saka as well, but I don't see a lot of goals in that one for Arsenal, especially away from home. So I don't see Saka getting a lot of points for that game. Do we get early team news for Man City versus Liverpool? I think there's a good chance we get some team news. Let me just head over to Twitter just to be sure. There's a good chance. Let me just check a couple of accounts. Right, so I think we could get a couple of team leaks, but I think it's nothing conclusive as of yet. At least based off of what I'm reading on Twitter now. So if you guys do want to check out the leaks for yourselves, I do have a list on Twitter that I've been sharing around. It's completely free, it's public as well. So I'm gonna spam the link in the chat, and you guys can follow it on Twitter if you guys do want to check it out, right? I'm spamming the chat. This is basically where I get my team news. Is Dominic Calvert-Lewin a hold or sell? Sell to whom? So this week, Everton play Manchester United. I think moving forward, the fixtures for Everton, if I'm not wrong, they're kind of somewhere near the middle of the fixture ticker. Right, so yeah, I mean basically they have quite a mixed bag of fixtures. So United, then they have Nottingham Forest away, then Chelsea at home, Newcastle at home, Chelsea at home. So I think there's good reason to want to sell the Everton assets. If we're looking at defenders, if we're looking at forwards, I think I would actually go for Solanke this week in your position. Right, if I had Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I would be going for Solanke this week. Thank you very much for the super chat, Toby. So all super chats, all memberships, everything from today's stream goes to charity. Just another reminder for you guys as well. Sanchez, James, Colwell, or Disasi for our teams. My favorite would actually be Reece James, but we're just always unsure about how long he can remain fit. Right, but just an interesting stat that I read on Twitter that day is since Reece James has come back, he has actually created the second highest big chances just behind Kieran Trippier since he's come back. Right, so I guess that kind of says a lot about how his attacking potential is always there for Reece James. So I do like him. Colwell is a very, very good option if we are looking at cheap defensive entries into the Chelsea defense. And the thing is, Colwell just dropped in price as well. So he's definitely a decent option. If I were to rank, I would go for James and then Colwell and then Sanchez. Right, but I think when it comes to goalkeeper transfers, it kind of requires you to be in a situation where you have a free transfer to make. I don't think during this festive period we would be prioritizing keeper transfers. So it really has to come down to a situation where you are in a position where you have a free transfer to burn and then you have money in the bank as well. You can upgrade Turner, for example, in my team. I can upgrade Turner to Sanchez. It's a decent option as well. Matthew says, at the moment my team is Areola, Turner, Cash, Gabriel, Gehi, Taylor, Simikas, Salah, Saka, Bowen, Palmer, Mitoma, Darwin, Watkins, and Haaland 0 in the bank. So I guess it's not too much of an issue. Your forwards are fine. In the midfield, you have Bowen and Mitoma. So I think the obvious issue there is Mitoma. You probably have to take him out for Mbuemo, probably if you can afford him. The NYTG says, my team is Turner, Areola, Cash, Gehi, Simikas, Gabriel, Branthwaite, Son, Salah, Palmer, Saka, Bowen. Cash, Gehi, and Gabriel should be fine for your defense. Son, Salah, Palmer, Saka, and Bowen. Bowen is probably the only one that is an issue, so you'll have to see who's first on the bench. In Ketia, I'm not so sure he starts, to be honest. So I think if you have two free transfers, I may be tempted to remove Nketiah. Right, maybe go for a Dominic Solanke of sorts. Start Johnstone or Areola. Right, this is an interesting one. I would probably start the Crystal Palace keeper. So I start Johnstone instead of Areola. Just because both of them have really good fixtures this week, right? It's Burnley for West Ham, it's Luton for Crystal Palace. But I kind of favour the Crystal Palace defence a little bit. The numbers they've been putting up are better than West Ham's. So I would kind of go with the Crystal Palace keeper, so Johnstone. Lewis says, I'm starting with a back three, Gabriel, Virgil van Dijk, and Gehi. I have Branthwaite second sub, Cash third sub. What do you think? What will you do different in my case? Virgil van Dijk against Man City. To be fair, I would be fine benching Virgil van Dijk for Matty Cash. I'd actually start Cash, Gehi, and Gabriel in your position. Kavit says, hey consult, fellow Chelsea fan. Chelsea have been on a decent run today. Well, we're going to play against Newcastle. I don't think it's going to be easy for us, but hopefully we can get something. I have to say the result against Man City, the 4-4 draw, was one of our best performances. So I'm kind of feeling a little bit more optimistic, at least better than how I felt at the start of the season. Play Taylor or Cash, definitely Matty Cash. FPL Cam says Bowen to Mbeumo. I wouldn't sell Bowen this week. My thoughts on Bowen is basically that if you have him, you keep him. If you don't have him, you don't buy him, basically. So it's kind of like a don't buy, don't sell situation for Jarrod Bowen. Sorry for a long message. I'm thinking Cash to Saliba, burn to Baldock, leave 0.2 in the bank to do Diaby to Mbeumo next week. Thoughts on this, or just burn to a 4.5 and roll? I prefer the Cash to Saliba, burn to Baldock move. Yep. Thoughts on defensive options at all price ranges in the coming weeks? I think Chelsea defenders will come into our minds very, very soon. Their fixtures are turning really, really well coming up. I think from Gameweek 16 onwards, if I'm not wrong. So from Gameweek 16, Gameweek 16 is Everton, Sheffield, Wolves, Crystal Palace, Luton, Fulham. Then it's Liverpool, then it's Wolves and Crystal Palace again. So I think for this run, I definitely want to have a Chelsea defender. I am not set on whether it's going to be Reece James or whether it's going to be Levi Colwill. If I don't have enough money come the time I want to buy a Chelsea defender, I may stick with Levi Colwill just to save some money. But I haven't confirmed it yet. I think Reece James is definitely the higher upside move. Would you start Shah and Lascelles or Shah and Tsimikas? I wouldn't go for double Newcastle defense. So I just spread the risk basically. I'll just go for Shah and Tsimikas. Should I transfer out Bowen and Nketiah for Solanke and maybe Mbeumo if I have enough cash? Yeah, I don't mind that move at all. If it's a combination move so that you can afford Nketiah up to Solanke, I don't mind it. But then again, you see Bowen, I think he should be fine from game week 14 onwards. At least for now, it's not looking so serious. So I think it's a little bit tricky, right, to say whether you should make those moves or not. But the thing is, you have Nketiah. So maybe I'll be tempted to do that and just go without Bowen. Cash or Eze for the whole season? Hard to say for the whole season, but I think Eze is not a bad buy this week at all. I don't mind Eze. If you were to sell Mitoma, would you get a 1 week punt like Kudus or Eze and then move him to Mbeumo the following week, or go for Mbeumo straight away? So that's a very, very good question. My thoughts on this is that basically I'm saving a transfer if I go for Mbeumo straight away now. So you could see it as if it's 4 points. The way I see it is kind of like you're kind of saving 4 points, right? Because if you do take a hit maybe further down the road, if you want to make another transfer and you have to take a hit for it, it's kind of an extra 4 points. So the way I see it is if I go for Mbeumo now, I'm saving a potential transfer, so I'm kind of making 4 points. And then next week, I can try to make a transfer and get ahead of the curve by going for someone else, right? Addressing another area in my team. So I would probably just go for Mbeumo now and take a chance. He's on penalties anyway. I don't think he's that bad of an asset against Arsenal at home, right? So I think Mbeumo is fine, right, for this week, and that's why if I was in a position where I had Mitoma, I think 90% I would get Mbeumo. Bernardo Silva or Jota, just trying to be different. I think Bernardo Silva is slightly more safe for minutes. So if you want to go different and you're choosing between those two, I would go for Bernardo Silva. Kavit says we win 4-0 against stinky Newcastle Geordies. Easy. I hope so though. I hope so. If there's any chance that we win Newcastle, I think it's against this backline that they're having now. Right, because Botman's out. They're playing Lascelles not too bad, don't get me wrong. But I think Lascelles, Fabian Schär, Lewis Hall can't even play. So it's going to be Livramento and then Kieran Trippier. I think this is definitely not as strong as Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier, Fabian Schär, and Botman. So if we're going to do some damage to the Newcastle defense, I think it's going to be this week. Right, so let's hope. I'm not sure how many Chelsea fans there are in the chat. But I am hoping that we get something. Best keepers, I'm fed up with Areola and Turner. Same here, to be honest. I would keep Areola just because he's really cheap. The fixtures are good. I would probably sell Turner for one of either Sanchez or Flecken. Right? As of now, in terms of the long-term view of keepers, Sanchez and Areola actually rotate really well until the end of the season. But Mbeumo's fixtures are really good as well. Brentford's fixtures are really good, and they do rotate well with Areola as well. So Flecken and Sanchez, I don't think you can go too wrong with either of them. So that's probably where I would go in terms of keepers. Would you start Shah and... Oh, I've answered this already. Morning, I've done Adingra and Cash to 8 Nuri and Eze this week. All the best. Dalo, Cash, Simikas, who to sell in order and who to buy? Probably sell Dalo. I'll probably sell Dalo since Luke Shaw is back. Followed by Cash and then Simikas, probably in that order. Who to buy? I would, if I was buying defenders this week, I would buy Arsenal defenders. And I guess that's pretty much it. I don't think I'll be buying any other defenders. The defensive fixtures this week are really, really poor. Newcastle is a very tricky game, but they have injuries, so we cannot lose. We have to kind of take advantage of the injuries, to be honest. It says, I'm going Saliba for now to go to James from there after. Given James is fit, plays through the December fixtures. Well, the thing with Reece James is I don't think he'll play every single game throughout the festive period. I think he would probably, get about 4 starts out of 5 games. And for me, I think that's actually enough when it comes to Reece James. I mean, in the 4 games that he plays, there's no saying he outscores any average defender that plays 5 games. Who would I get instead of Nketiah as you suggested? 0.4 in the bank, selling price is 5.6, so I will have 6 million to spend. I prefer to go for Solanke, but if you don't have enough, then I guess Edouard is the one at 5.5. Edouard is at 5.5, so I think he's a decent option to go for if you don't have enough money to get to Solanke. Excuse me. Cash down to a 4.5 to afford Mitoma to Mbeumo or Watkins to Solanke to free up a lot for the Embuemo move, plus premium defenders and Sanchez in the coming weeks? That's a tough one. To Ford, Mitoma to Embuemo, or Watkins to Solanke to free up a lot for the... I don't really think we will need premium defenders, to be honest. So I'd actually go for the cash down to a 4.5 to afford Mitoma to Embuemo. I'll probably go that way. FPL Down Under says, "Hey FPL Consult, what country are you in? Love your content. Thank you very much for the kind words. I'm from Singapore. Lewis says, Walker, Virgil, or Maguire if you had to start one. Wow. Probably Maguire. There is a bit of a fallout, I think. We're hearing news of a fallout with Rafael Varane and Eric Ten Hag. So I think Maguire starts for the foreseeable future. I think every Chelsea fan should have at least Palmer in their squads. Mine's on the way. I will have Adingra out for Palmer sooner rather than later. I think 2 playing keepers is what's going wrong this season. To be fair, Areola is just 4.3. I don't think he's going to take up that much budget away from our outfielders. Bowen injury. So the thing with Bowen, right, for those of you who have just tuned in, I'm having Bowen in my starting 11 because I think it's a situation where he will start if he's fit, and also if he's not fit, I don't think he will get minutes off the bench. So in other words, I think it's safe to start him and then have your bench prepared. So that's basically what I've done. I've gone with Bowen in the midfield here. Archer is the first option on the bench who will come in for him in case Bowen doesn't play. Right. Thank you very much, Linus, for the super chat. Once again, all goes to UNICEF as well. So thank you for the contribution and all the support. Let's check. Low-key thinking about a Cole Palmer differential captain. Thoughts? I could do it. It would be high scoring. I would be cautious of that because at the end of the day, it is still Newcastle and they are still playing at St. James's Park. So honestly speaking, I think it's gonna be a situation where it could still go Newcastle's way. And this is coming from a Chelsea fan. I still think it could go Newcastle's way, right? Because Isak is probably going to be back. Almiron's fine. Gordon's fine. Bruno Guimaraes, who didn't play against Bournemouth last week, will be playing because he's not suspended anymore. So he's going to be playing in Gameweek 13. So all of a sudden, it's very, very close to a good Newcastle team. So I don't think we're going to see a situation where Chelsea, roll over Newcastle. I think it's still going to be quite tight. Why Adingra over Archer? Nottingham Forest away is not easy at all. So that is an interesting one. Adingra and Archer, to be fair, was the dilemma that I thought I would be having going into this game week. Because obviously before the international break, Jarrod Bowen was fine. I was looking at this team, I was thinking I'm going to roll the transfer. And then I see Adingra and Archer. And I'm thinking, which one should I start? So obviously now, given that I'm starting Bowen, maybe at the end of the day, if Bowen doesn't play, I will have to field both Adingra and Archer at the end. But just as of now, I'm just kind of leaning towards Adingra a little bit more. Right? I guess you could say it's a little bit of a gut feel, but in terms of numbers, Adingra's numbers are definitely better than Archer's. And Archer has actually done pretty good at home, right, as compared to away. So there's kind of different things that I'm considering at this point, right? But something's just telling me to lean towards Adingra for now. I could go with Archer in the end, right? Let's see. But for now, I do have a Dingra. I don't think I would change it anytime soon. I mean, simply because of the fact that Brighton in general are a better attacking team than Sheffield as well, who don't create a lot of chances. So I'm 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 confident of Archer, but just not as confident of Archer as a Dingra. Then I guess you can put it that way. Play Alvarez or Adingra? I think you definitely play Alvarez. You definitely play Alvarez. Any update on Haaland injury? Is he the best captain choice this week still? Right. So the thing with Haaland is that he has trained. And before the press conference yesterday, before the last training session yesterday, during the press conference, Pep was saying that we'll see how Erling Haaland does if he trains later on as well. So I think the news is pretty positive for Erling Haaland. So for now, I have him on the captain's armband. My thinking around captaincy this week is firstly, I think it's either between Salah or Haaland. I don't see Saka doing too well against Brentford away. There's no chance I'm gonna captain Adingra. Bowen is just not safe enough to captain, and Son and Watkins. I don't think I'm super confident to captain either of them. So really for me, it just comes down to Haaland and Salah, and in that case, I think it's just a question of captaining the player that's playing at home. Gandhi is probably out of the window there because for those of you who have been telling me that it's the early kickoff, both of them, both Salah and Haaland are the early kickoff. So busy weekday and weekend. I'm blank. Don't know what to do with my current team. Just gonna follow you. Cheers, Ricky. Should I start Taylor or Simicas? I would start Simicas. Are you starting Bowen? Yes, I'm starting Bowen. Start Garnacho or Trippier? Trippier. FPL Down Under says very cool. This is probably in reply to the which country I'm from. Start Baldock or Simicas? Probably Baldock. I'll just take a chance on Baldock. Eddie says, I'm not sure about Matty Cash, mate. Well, I'm quiet. I'm actually thinking Matty Cash could be quite a differential next week, right? Because he has Tottenham this week. People are looking to sell him, but he'll have Bournemouth away next week. So I think I'm in a situation where I'm hoping people sell him so that I have him for Bournemouth and he'll be a differential. Maguire is like a ticking time bomb for own goals to start soon. Bench order Simicas, Taylor, Mitoma. Mitoma's last for sure. I don't think he'll start. So then it's gonna be Simicas first and then Taylor. Yeah, that's probably what I do. Not captaining Son. I'm just not confident this week. Captaining Bowen, definitely not. Let's put up a captaincy poll for those of you in the chat as well. Gameweek 13 captaincy poll. Let's go with Haaland, Salah, Saka, and alright, I'll have Son as an option individually as well, and then I'll have Saka and Watkins as the last option. So let me know what you guys are doing with your captaincy decisions. I'm going for Haaland. I've put Salah, Son, Saka, and Watkins in the poll as well. Let me know what you guys are doing. Right, Kabir, I see what you mean. Erwin says, I have to choose between starting Cash, Bowen, or Trippier. Wow. Wow. Cash, Bowen, or Trippier? I would probably start Bowen, and then I have Trippier first on the bench. That's probably what I would do. I'm a West Ham fan, and with my experience with Moyes, I would probably lean towards starting Bowen, especially considering the Antonio injury. Well, thank you for the input. So, I'm probably going to start Bowen as well, just in the off chance that Bowen starts. I'm actually thinking he may start. I think he may start. Would you sell Gordon for Palmer? Not this week, I don't think. Not this week. Stuart says, play Simicas or Lascelles, who has the higher upside. Obviously, Simicas has the higher upside. Yeah, so I'll go for Simicas then. Is Bruno a captaincy shout this week? Yes, he's a differential captaincy shout this week. Bowen injured. So the thing with Bowen is basically, I think it's a situation where he starts if he's fit. He starts. If he's not fit, I don't think he'll come on off the bench. But the actual quote from David Moyes is basically that there will be a late assessment done on Jarrod Bowen. Steele, Neto, or Pickford if you had to start one. Probably Neto. The keeper, of course. Millwall on tour says, who do I captain? Let's check on the poll then. Well, Haaland is actually still the favourite, but not by a massive amount. 38%. 38% in terms of captaincy. Yusuf says, I'm on a free hit. What would be your free hit team, and would you include Isak? Well, I haven't actually put together a free hit team. Let's take a look at what Fantasy Football Hub has for their free hit team. Just as a reference, and I'll see what changes I would make to that team. Right, so if I was on a free hit, let's make this a little bit bigger. So, Fantasy Football Hub have John Stone in goal. Fair enough. They have double Newcastle defense. I don't think I would do that. Porro, I think it's alright. Porro's fine. In the midfield is Son, Salah, Bruno Fernandes, Gordon, and Eze. Haaland up front, Nicholas Jackson. Right, so I definitely don't agree with some of the picks here. I think I wouldn't go for Jackson. I think Eze is fine. Gordon, I don't think I would go for him. Would I have Isak? I think it's a bit too much of a risk. If you're on a free hit, you do want it to bang, so I don't think I would go for Isak. I would go for Eze for sure. Son, yep. I would actually still have Ollie Watkins in this free hit team. Bruno Fernandes, I do like it. I think you can have one extra Manchester United defender there in place of one of the Newcastle defenders. So probably Fabian Schär out for someone like a Harry Maguire. And yeah, I think it's pretty much, this is a decent team. Pep knows Liverpool struggle to start Diaz, Nunes, McAllister, etc. So he still fixed Rodri and Haaland injuries for a full week of preparation. Whom do I start? Palmer or Gordon? This is an interesting one. I think it has to be the one on penalties. So it has to be the one on penalties. So it has to be Palmer. Toby says, I'm going rogue. Son Heung-min, although I got a hunch he will be subbed off early. So he did play, I think, the full 90 minutes in both games, Son Heung-min. 3 starting defenders pick Saliba, Sibika, Shah, Anderson. So Anderson for sure. Okay, right. This one is simple. You just bench Simikas. Any news on Bowen? Nothing as of yet. Nothing as of yet. Let's check out the team leaks on Twitter. No, nothing as of yet. Nothing as of yet. I think it's a little bit too early as well, so I don't foresee us getting any legitimate team news anytime soon. I think the higher upside is for Son since Aston Villa play a high line. I mean, I just feel like it could be a situation. I'm still assessing Son basically. I don't really know how. We've only had one game where Madison has been out, so I'm not super confident that Spurs are going to put up good numbers consistently again. We already saw a bit of a drop-off last week against Wolves, so let's see what happens. But I think for now, I'm just not confident of captaining Son. For those of you guys who do want to do it though, I'm perfectly alright with that. I'm not going to advise against that. Start Udogi, Cash, Odegaard, Ferguson. Between Udogi and Cash, I would probably... Wow, that one is tough. I don't think Udogi is as attacking as Cash though. And I probably don't think either of them keep a clean sheet. So I'll probably go for Matty Cash. Odegaard and Ferguson. I think Ferguson came off with an injury, if I'm not wrong. So probably have to go for Odegaard. There's a good chance Odegaard comes back this week. I'm hoping Odegaard coming back this week will help Saka, because I think Saka's output has dropped the past couple of weeks because Odegaard was missing. If I'm not wrong, he was missing last week because of a... If I'm not wrong, Odegaard was missing last week because there was kind of a concussion protocol situation. He got a knock, I think, somewhere on his head during training. And as a result, I think it kind of triggered the concussion protocol. They had to rest him for the weekend. So we'll see what happens. But I think based off of what Arteta is saying, that Odegaard is progressing well, that's according to Arteta, I think there's a good chance he starts. So I hope that him coming back will kind of help Saka's output. Diaby or Cash? Watkins only had one superb game. If you're starting, I would start both. I would start both of them. Suggest a 4.5 defender. Already have Gehi and Lascelles. There's not really a lot. 4.5 million. I really don't think it gets a lot this week. Right, so 4.5 defenders, there's really not a lot. I'm having a look at them now, and really it's quite thin. Levi Colwell is at 4.5 if you do want to consider him. I think he's a decent long-term pick. So Levi Colwell is one of them. You could go for Emerson. He's just served his suspension, so you could go for Emerson from West Ham. But then again, West Ham aren't really keeping loads of clean sheets. And then you could also go for Brentford defenders. But the thing with Brentford defenders is that you do have to have in mind um, blank game week 18. So I put out a video on blank game week 18 strategies basically, and I do think like if you do want to save your free hit in blank game week 18, you need to be mindful of how many Man City assets and how many Brentford assets you have. So assuming you have Haaland and you're gonna go for Mbeumo, there's already two outfield slots that you have that you can bench. And if you go for another Brentford defender, that's 3 slots all taken up. So all your outfield spots on the bench are filled, right? So you have to start basically everyone else. And does your squad depth allow for that? So you do have to consider particularly the Brentford and Man City assets that you have moving forward. Cosmo says, great stream as always. Really need your advice this week after the break. Thank you very much. Rudy says, you start early. Choose captaincy for the early kickoff game. Is it a bit jinx? Son or Bowen captain? So for those of you guys who really don't want to captain the early kickoff, right? I think if I were to go different, if I don't choose Haaland, if I don't choose Salah, I think I would captain Son, right? If you take Haaland and Salah out of the equation, basically, I would captain Son. Bowen to Mbeumo, Adingra to Eze with 2 free transfers. I don't mind it, but the thing with Bowen is I don't think he'll be out for that long, right? So if you're alright with not having him once he comes back, then those moves are alright. Does Gehi provide attacking threat? Not as great as Anderson. 8 Nuri at 4.5. I don't really like Wolves moving forward. I don't think defensively the numbers are super good. Yeah, I'm not super keen on Wolves defenders. Colwell, Saliba, Tsimikas, Porro, choose 3 from 4. I'll just bench Tsimikas. Alright, so I'll go with Colwell, Saliba, and Porro. GV says Fulham defenders can be considered Castagna. So it is interesting, right? Fulham defenders, I think I put Castagna in one of the free hit drafts, if I'm not wrong. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it is Fulham, and the returns are not great. I mean, you just look at the returns, right? So, but to be fair, they have been playing tough opposition, right? And moving forward, I mean, honestly, I don't see Fulham keeping clean sheets in these games as well. So I would probably not. I'd probably not go for Fulham defenders. Rafael says you save Bowen. So I'm assuming that you're questioning why I'm not selling Bowen. So I'm basically thinking like the injury wouldn't be that serious that keeps him out for that long. And I think there's a good chance that he starts this week as well. Right, so that's why I'm keeping Bowen. John David says, got it. Thanks. Let me go try making changes. A bit more challenging with the 0.1 price rise. So there were loads of price changes this morning, right? Or last night for some of you guys. There were loads of price changes. So I guess it was quite brutal. I mean, even now I still think like I still don't understand how the price changes works, right? I refer to Fantasy Football Hub, the price predictor basically. But then again, it's always a predictor. I'll show you guys how it looks. But basically, we're always predicting the price changes, but we'll never get it 100% accurate. And already last night there were quite a couple of changes, right? So even tonight, right, there's potential for all these changes to happen. So Bowen likely to drop. Gabriel, right, let me... Yep, so Gehi, Huang Hee-chan, Fabian Shah, Palmer, Branthwaite, Saliba, right. Palmer is set to rise again. He's already he's already risen 0.1 over the international break. He's probably gonna rise again to 5.3. So for those of you guys who got him at about 5.5 or 5.1, you guys are probably gonna be rolling in cash. Saliba already at 5.4, stated to rise again. Gabriel also another one. Of course, Bowen seems like he's gonna be on the price fall. I mean, the rest I don't think we have too much interest in, right? So Aviola, Cash, Gehi, Lascelles, Bowen, Salah, Palmer, Saka, Son, Haaland, Watkins, Turner, Archer, Taylor, Tsimikas. No, I think it's fine then, right? You've made your transfers, I think it's fine. And the thing with Bowen, as I mentioned already, you could actually just keep him. So in your position, I'd just start him. Pretty similar to my team. Lewis says, my mates, Salah, Bowen, Gordon, Diaby, Buemo. Forwards are Haaland, Watkins, Archer for sub. How do you rate my team? 78 points last week. Ranked 585 in the US. That's insane. 78 points are Salah, Bowen, Gordon, Diaby, and Buemo. I think it's fine. I think I like this midfield. Just make sure that you have Archer first up. Yeah, and you do have it. I think it's fine. Aaron says, I use Twitter to predict price changes. I catch them pretty often. I guess there are some accounts, right? There are some accounts that predict price changes as well, or they kind of tweet out whenever someone is predicted to rise the next day. So I guess that's also a good platform to use. Rudy says, if I captain Son, what do you think his chance to score is when Madison and Bissouma are not available for the game? Well, Madison and Bissouma not being available for the game is one way to look at it. Another way you can see it is also that Bentancur Kerr will be back into the team. And I do like Bentancur Kerr as a player. Before he got injured, I think he was one of the standout players for Spurs. So, yeah, I mean, it's really inconclusive, right? On Spurs right now. It's hard to see how they're going to do. So if you're captaining Son, you're basically taking a chance. You're basically taking a chance on Son. GB says Reece James rose by 1 million. Exactly. Let me get the list of price changes. Right, so price changes wise, Reece James, Nicholas Jackson, Joakim Anderson, Eze, Johnstone, Darwin Núñez, Bernardo, Baldock, Ward-Prowse, and Kudus all rose in price last night or this morning, wherever you are basically. So Ben White, Medicash, Colwell, Matson, Beto, Almiron, Botman, Burn, Richarlison, Romero all dropped in price. So you immediately see that there's so many price changes last night. Reece James rising by 0.1 million is very interesting. I think maybe the hype train for Reece James has already started. Bowen captain, will he start? I think Bowen captain is definitely too risky. I probably wouldn't go there. Thinking of a Saka or Son captaincy, Haaland might just punish. Um, if it's between Saka or Son, I would actually favor Son. Do you think travelling back from international break matters, and who? Also, deducted points will affect Everton, same to Derby County. Um, well, it's too early to say how Everton are going to react to this. I think it definitely will impact them in some way. How it does, we're not sure at this point. Traveling back from international break doesn't matter. I think it definitely does. We saw Darwin Núñez, one of the international breaks. We've had four already. One of the international breaks, I don't remember, Darwin Núñez came back quite late from the international break, and as a result, he didn't start. Right, so I think it definitely has an impact. Top 10 Travel says, hey bro, I have a midfield of Salah, Hwang Hee-chan, Bowen, Mitoma, and Nakamba with no transfer available, 3.3 in the bank, assuming Bowen does not play. Do you recommend Mitoma to Mbeumo? I think you may be in a situation where you need to take a hit because Nakamba is definitely not someone you want to start with. You have a midfield of Salah, Hwang Hee-chan, Bowen, and Mitoma. In the off chance that Bowen doesn't play, I think you'll be in trouble there in the midfield. So I will probably do Mitoma to Mbeumo. Yep, I will probably do that. Right, let's just see if there's any news coming in. Right, so nothing as of yet. So no news at the moment. Just in case we get any early leaks. Let's just see a prediction from... Let's see if Luke has done a prediction. Right, so not at the moment. So we don't even have predicted lineups yet for Man City at least. Should I take a -4 to get Watkins in for Alvarez? I don't know because it feels like an unnecessary transfer. So usually when you feel like that's the case, it is usually unnecessary. And I do think that it is unnecessary. Owen says, so excited for the Prem to be back. So the great news is that from now onwards, at least for the next month, there's not going to be an international break anymore, right? All the way until next year. So we're going to have, if I'm not wrong, 7 game weeks in quick succession. So there's going to be quite a number of, I mean, it's the festive period. We already know there's going to be loads of football. So, I mean, it is definitely an exciting time. It could also be a time to make up a lot of rank or drop a lot of rank. I mean, both ways. But there's pretty much, this is the kind of crunch time where you're gonna want to load up on players that are more secure for minutes, right? So I would kind of advise for those of you guys who are making your transfers from now on to try to go for players that you will know definitely will start every single game, right? So take for example Brian Mbeumo. Yes, he has the blank in game week 18, but he's the kind of player you would expect to play throughout the festive period. Players like Saka, right, you would expect as well. So basically, go for those nailed players. 90 minutes, penalties would be an added bonus as well. And just do bear in mind also, I think it's quite far down the road, but do bear in mind that after the blank in game week 18, there's going to be the AFCON and the Asian Cup. So that would kind of start around game week 21 to game week 22. So around that range is when we will see some players go away for those games. So that's Salah for the AFCON. There's Mbeumo as well, who's involved in that as well. Son would probably be involved in the Asian Cup. So we have to take note of these players. The template will probably shift quite a bit moving forward into then. It's not something that we need to react to now immediately. But I think having it at the back of our minds would kind of shape our transfers a little bit, right? So Son, Salah, Buemo, I think these are the key players that would be affected by the tournaments then. Sugarbender says, hey mate, best Mitoma replacement, no cash in the bank, thinking maybe Gordon. So if you have no money in the bank, I do know that Buemo is more expensive than Mitoma. So if you go downwards from there, I think Eze is the one that I will go for. Haaland to start, I think he will probably start. I have the captain's armband on him. It's against Liverpool. I don't see a world where Haaland wouldn't start even if there's an off chance that he's fit. I think this week will be a good week to have a bad week, given so many potential injuries. Possible? Definitely possible. Will Bowen play? No one knows. A late assessment will be made on him, but I do think it's a situation where he would start if he's fit. He wouldn't come on off the bench if he's not fit. Should I sell cash and bring Gehi and Maguire? No. I wouldn't sell Matty Cash this week. Is Bowen gonna start or take a -4 to get Mbeumo early? Well, no one really knows whether Bowen's gonna start, right? So I just think it's a situation where if you have him, you start him, and then you make sure that your first option on the bench is prepared. But I wouldn't do Bowen to Mbeumo for a -4 early. I wouldn't make that transfer. Huang Hee-chan also in international duties, Gameweek 22 onwards. Yep, exactly. So basically, Asian Cup and AFCON are going to see a couple of players leave for those competitions. So do bear that one in mind. But I think it's not that soon anyways. We will just have to adapt to it when that comes, because it's pretty hard to plan all the way till then, right? So Gameweek 21, 22, it's around the... Right, so it's around the January period basically, right? So that's why they are going to be missing for that period of time. So at least until Game Week 20, right? You see here, Game Week 20 is where there is a... it's on the 31st of December. It's around the New Year's period, and it's going to be still within the year. AFCON and the Asian Cup will not have started yet. So it's only come the new year that these players would be affected. Just some early thoughts as well. There is a slight chance that depending on when the double game week for Manchester City is rescheduled to, Mbeumo may not play both games in double game week. There's just a slight chance, right? But we don't know the confirmed dates yet, so it's too early to say. But there's a slight chance that Mbeumo may not play both games in a double. But regardless, I still think like Mbeumo is kind of it's kind of a player that we need to hop on sooner rather than later. I myself, I'm probably gonna bring him in next week. I'll show you guys my transfers. But this run here is basically why I think we have to have him. Luton, Brighton away. Brighton away is not a difficult fixture at all. Sheffield, Aston Villa at home, Wolves at home, Crystal Palace away. I think these are all fixtures that Mbeumo could do well. It's just this blank in 18 that makes it tricky. So if you have him, you have to kind of save a spot on the bench for him come blank game week 18. There were so many transfers in for Bowen. This is evidence that early transfers are not always the best option. And well, exactly. Please suggest replacements for Mitoma that are under 7 million. Mbeumo would be my number one Mitoma replacement. Start Chris Wood or Jarrod Bowen. Oh wow. So you have so for those of you who have Chris Wood, good news is that Ewoniyi will be out for, I mean not good news, but those of you who do have Chris Wood, Ewoniyi is going to be out for a while. So that basically means that Chris Wood should start the next couple of games, and Nottingham Forest do have quite a good quietly do have quite a good run coming up. So if there's any time that Chris Wood gets a good couple of returns, I think it's here. So they have Brighton in Gameweek 13, which is now. They play at home, and then they have Everton at home next week, Fulham away, Wolves away, Spurs at home. So maybe Spurs a little bit difficult, but then they have Bournemouth at home as well. So I think this run could definitely see something for Chris Wood. So for those of you who do have him, he's definitely someone to consider. He's already scored against some of the weaker teams this season. So 2 against Luton. You will remember that one, right, where they kind of bottled it. I think Nottingham Forest were winning that one, and then they kind of bottled it. Sheffield, Chris Wood also scored against them. So there's every chance, I feel like, in the coming games, there could be something for Chris Wood. I do like him as an option, especially at 4.9. Only reason I'm against Eze is Hodgson's style of play. Most of Eze's returns are pens. Gordon seems to always return at home, even against the big teams. Thoughts on Gordon with Newcastle's current injury? So I think with the injuries, it only makes Gordon's minutes even more secure. As for Eze, aside from penalties, he's also on set pieces. He's probably going to start every single game as well. So I kind of like it that there's many routes to points for Eze, right? So which is different when it comes to Gordon, because Gordon pretty much has to get a return from open play. But the thing is, in terms of team attack wise, Newcastle is definitely the better team in terms of the attack, right? So if you feel like going for Gordon ahead of Eze, I think go for it. I think both are good options. Bowen news, nothing different as of what we heard yesterday. Currently have Haaland and Alvarez. I'm planning to get Mbeumo next week. Should I sell Alvarez soon to prep for the blank game week? Bench isn't the best as well. If you have Alvarez, I don't think you sell him. Game week 16, he has a really good fixture. So I don't think you sell him yet. Bowen is worth starting as long as you have a good substitute. He would be very unlikely to come on as a substitute with the injury niggle. Yep, exactly. So exactly that. Solanke or Douglas Luiz to start? I would start Solanke. Top 2 captains this week. I would say Haaland is still the favourite this week. I wouldn't put Salah next, interestingly. I think it could be Son next. Based on predicted points as well, Son is highest for predicted points this week. Thoughts on Mykolenko? I think he's been pretty fortunate to get the returns he's been getting. And defensively, I mean, when you go for a defender, the baseline is they need to keep clean sheets. So for Everton moving forward, their fixtures aren't really that good for clean sheets. So I wouldn't be going for Mykolenko. Greetings from Sierra Leone. I'm a new subscriber. Well, thank you very much for subscribing. Please suggest replacements for Mitoma that are under 7 million apart from Mbeumo. Well, So there is, in the 6 million bracket, there is no, it's not Kaoru Mitoma. There, in the 6 million bracket, there is Eze. So I don't mind Eze. If not, I think you could go down. I don't think James Ward-Prowse is someone I would consider. So I think you could go further down, so into the 5 million bracket, and that's where you're gonna see options like Cole Palmer. You're gonna see options like Gordon as well. Right. So I don't think I would stray too far away from these enablers. Bowen to Mbeumo and Alvarez to Solanke. I don't think Bowen to Mbeumo is a move that needs to be done. Alvarez to Solanke. The thing is, I'll be looking to bring Alvarez in Game Week 16. So I'm not so sure, for those of you that have him, that you want to sell him. I do get the reason why. Because he's been blanking for the past couple of game weeks. But he is still playing for Man City, one of the best attacks, if not the best attack in the league. And he's been starting almost every single game. Right, so I don't think it's a transfer that needs to be made. Right, so Trini just pointed out as well, Kudus is also a decent option. So definitely, with Antonio being out, I think Kudus is a decent option. The only reason why I am a little bit wary is just because of a slight concern over the international break with him, but he seems to be fine. After the kind of news broke that he had a bit of an issue with his back, he did still play the next 45 minutes during the international break. So if he's fit, I think Kudus is a good differential. Play Archer or sell Mitoma to bring in another midfielder. I would sell Mitoma to bring in another midfielder. Captain Watkins, I think it's fine if you want to go for Watkins. What is a good total game week points in this game week 13? Well, every game week I usually say that if you get around 60 to 70 points, you're pretty much set for the game week. So honestly speaking, it's really a question of how well others do if you're thinking about it in a certain perspective. If the average is not very, very high, there was one game week we'll remember, the average was about 29 or 32. So for those of you guys who scored about like 40 plus points or 50 plus points, then already you make up so much ground against the general field of players. So I don't really think it's a question of, what is a good total game week points to have. It's more of what's the average going to look like, and how much more compared to the average can we score. Is Saka for captain just because he takes penalties a good shout? Nah, I wouldn't do it this week. Lewis says, my overall rank is 14,000. I'm 86 points away from first place. Wish me luck. I want to win in FPL. Well, I'll be frank, anyone still has a chance to win FPL at this point. Alright, maybe not, I guess there's a certain cutoff, but I still think like there's a decent chance that if you are in and around the first, I think 3 to 2 million, I think there's still a good chance you could win FPL. And I'm being serious. Like, I still think it's completely possible because the game is so fluid. You could go on a couple of runs and boom, you're in the top, 100k, and then you have plans of going even further. So already you're at 14,000. I think there's a good chance. GV says Salah is in explosive form. I'm expecting a goal from Salah. I think there's a good chance he will get it. It's just I'm not sure it's worth me captaining him, but I definitely think he could get something. I think if you have Alvarez, Haaland, and Mbeumo, the best option would be to save 2 free transfers till game week 17, then replace Alvarez and Mbeumo if necessary. That is also a strategy. That's also a decent strategy to sell them before the blank. Right? If you don't want to keep them on the bench, you can sell them before game week 18. Is it worth taking a hit A -4 hit for Kudus. Douglas Luiz out. I wouldn't take a -4 hit, I think. I don't think I would do that. Irwin says Salah at home is great. Away from home, he's not as great. Well, he did score that 15-pointer against Brighton, though. 10-pointer against Wolves. I think it held true for the past few seasons. I think that definitely held true. But recently, I think this season, his returns away from home have been pretty decent. Random account says, have you thought of starting Archer, and would you start Archer over Palmer or Mbeumo this week? I wouldn't start Archer over Palmer or Mbeumo. I have thought about starting Archer ahead of Bowen at one point in time this week. Now I have Archer on the bench. At one point, I also was thinking whether I would start Archer ahead of Adingra. Right? But for now, I still have Adingra in the team. Foremi FC says, hello from India. Well, thank you for tuning in. There is about 191 of you guys, so I think it's a good time to shout out the Christmas charity drive above me that we're doing. So basically, if you aren't subscribed already and you're watching, or you've been watching my content for a while, I'm doing a Christmas charity drive. So all the way from now until Christmas, I will be donating money to UNICEF. If you've watched a couple of my videos already, you would know that we launched this during the international break. So if you want to contribute, all you have to do is subscribe, and I will be donating more to charity. So just a little bit of a tracker as well as to how much we have currently raised for UNICEF. We are sitting at about £55 for UNICEF right now. So really, really appreciative of all the support, and hopefully by the time the donation is made on Christmas Day, hopefully we can hit £100. So that is the aim. Okay. So getting back to the questions, should I start Cash or Gehi? I will start Gehi. Thoughts on Nicholas Jackson for the good Chelsea fixture run? I think it's not here yet, but when the time comes, maybe we could go there. But he's definitely not an attacker I would prioritize at least. Reese Holland says, morning mate, would you swap Douglas Luiz for Palmer this week? No, I wouldn't. Lebanese AK says, my team is Areola, Trippier, Gehi, Gabriel, Tsimikas, Lascelles, Salah, Saka, Bowen, Adingra, Diaby, Archer, Haaland, and Watkins. Who should I transfer out? Got 2 free transfers. Team actually looks fine, to be honest. Maybe having both Trippier and Lascelles, I don't think it's necessary, and Lascelles seems like he'll be an issue moving forward. So if you have money in the bank, you could upgrade Lascelles to a 4.5. Who to sell, Cash or Bowen? I got 2 free transfers. I feel like I must use one. Any replacements for Cash? I wouldn't sell Bowen. So if you're selling Cash this week, I'll try to go for Saliba. Well, exactly right. Top 10 travel. Right? How many of you would have rejected the opportunity to own a cheap city striker playing 90 minutes week in week out? Well, he's not really playing in a striker position. He's like kind of the number 10 role, just behind the striker. But still, I agree. I agree. Alvarez is a player that I think is kind of still undervalued. I know he's been blanking the past few games. But I still think like he's a good asset. Irvin says, Leon, are you saying I have a chance to win FPL? Well, 100%. 100%. Go ahead and win it. I honestly do hope like one of you guys can win it, because generally the winners for FPL are actually like for the past few seasons at least, are players that don't really consume content. So I've watched a couple of interviews of the previous winners, and most of them say they don't really watch a lot of content and they make their own decisions, etc. So respect, right? Absolute respect to them. I guess they have their own methods as well. But it'd be interesting to see someone who actually does consume content, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, etc. And then, based off of those decisions, win FPL. I think it'd be interesting to see that. Dominique says, "Hey bro, would you take in Ed Nuri or Castagna for a 3-week punt?" To be fair, neither. But if I have to choose one, I would go for Ed Nuri. Jakunta says, "Who can I trade Odegaard for?" I think you keep Odegaard. This week. He's definitely not a priority sell. I assume you have other flags. Odegaard, I don't think it's a sell this week, because there's a good chance he comes back against Brentford. Really considering taking a big risk and captaining Gehi, I don't think I would do that. I would advise against that actually, Sam. Toby says, "Go and win it, Owen." Any thoughts on a free hit in double game week 19? I don't think 19 will be a double game week. If I'm not wrong, it's 20. If I'm not wrong, it's 20 that's going to be a double game week. Who should I replace for Mitoma? I think we did discuss this a couple of times. Would you pick Bowen or Darwin to start this week? I would actually start both. If I'm honest, I actually start both. TikTok says, "Hello from Kenya. Thank you for tuning in." Haaland niggles a thing to worry about minutes and goal threat at Captain Salah, or keep faith in Captain Haaland? I would say to keep faith in Captain Haaland. There's about 340 votes on the captaincy poll already. 51% of you guys are still captaining Haaland, right? So I guess we can see that the favorite is still Haaland at home against Man City. I think there's good reason for that. So I wouldn't want to go too different. I think this week is just a week of keeping my head down, not trying to be too different, and just riding the waiting out the opportunity basically. I'm a wildcard this week. Any defender I should mandatory have other than Trippier or Saliba? I don't think any defenders are mandatory, if you ask me. In fact, I think what's mandatory is that you try and put more money out of the defense. In fact, I don't think there's a lot of defenders right now premium defenders right now that you would want to go for. Freedom Kumalo says, "Who would you play between Castagna, Maguire, Kudus, Adingra, Elanga, Rashford, and Mbeumo? Pick 3. Kudus for sure. Anthony Elanga. Alright, I will start Maguire. I will start Kudus, and tough. The last one is pretty tough. Between Rashford and Mbeumo, right? It'll be between Rashford and Mbeumo. Diaby to Mbeumo, would do it next week anyway, and I've got the exact amount. Don't want to be priced out next week. So Mbeumo already rose in price. I don't see a time when Diaby will be dropping anytime soon. So you could actually wait until just after the deadline if you don't want to be priced out. I've already got Gabriel Reece James in for Maddie Cash. I would just be a bit cautious. I understand that Reece James has already seen quite a number of transfers in, and he's already risen in price. But I would just be a bit cautious. It is still Reece James at the end of the day. Best defenders other than Saliba to bring in on a wild card this game week. I would still have Kieran Trippier. I think I would still have Kieran Trippier. Aside from that, probably one Chelsea defender in view of the long-term fixtures. So either one of either one of Colwell, not Gehi, either one of Colwell or Reece James. I have two defenders. Who to sell? Who do I sell in my defense? Trippier, Gabriel, Cash, Tsimikas, and Soufal. You could make a case to sell. You could make a case to sell Cash. But this defense does not seem like it needs a transfer, if I'm honest. It does not seem like a defense that needs a transfer. Yusin says it's likely game week 20. Yep, thank you very much. So it's likely going to be game week 20. I did quote Ben Krellin in the blank game week strategy video. Right, so you can go back to that one for the exact game week. Sterling is my captain. Well, all the best, Peter. I love going for differentials, right? I love it. Just this week is just a week. I think I can't look beyond Haaland. Do we think some players are tired from travels? Like Gabriel from Brazil, Son from Korea, 100%. Which is why I think there's a chance maybe Son is taken off 70 minutes. Gabriel, maybe he's benched. I mean, all this is speculation. But we have seen this before. This is nothing new. Would you start Bowen or Darwin? My midfield options are Bowen, Salah, Son, Saka, and Mbeumo. Forward options are Watkins, Alvarez, and Darwin. See my conundrum. Can't really start both. I see. That's a very, very strong attacking 7 that you have. Maybe I would bench Mbeumo if I'm honest. Maybe I would bench Mbeumo. Because then at the end of the day, maybe Bowen doesn't start, you know. But if he does start, you definitely want him against Burnley, and then Darwin Núñez, he can explode in any game. Mbeumo is still playing Arsenal, right? So I think I may bench Mbeumo in that case. I want to upgrade. I have Gabriel, Cash, Archer, 1.2 million. Who would you upgrade? Potentially, if you're alright to go for a double Arsenal defense, maybe Medicash to Saliba. If you're not though, I don't think attackingly you can go. I think Archer is fine. I don't think he needs an upgrade. So probably Medicash actually. I'll probably sell Medicash. Maybe Reece James if you really want to upgrade. Maybe Reece James, but you'll be ahead of the curve for quite a bit, and there are tough fixtures for Reece James coming up. Start Adingra or Archer? Good question. For now, I have Adingra. It's a great question. Who plays Palmer or Mbeumo? If I had to choose one, I would start Palmer, just because of the fixture. I've got triple Villa, feels too much for this, and their fixtures are going to turn soon. Diaby or Cash out now. I think against Spurs, right, especially with the couple of injuries and suspensions that they have in defense, I don't see a real need to sell Aston Villa assets now, considering that they are on a pretty good attacking run as well. I think they could actually do well against Spurs. Cash, Trent, and Trippier, whom to transfer out? I don't think I'll be selling Trent this week, because from 14 onwards the fixtures are just too good. If you already have him, maybe you can keep him. It depends on what you want to use the funds for moving forward. If you do have a better use for the funds, then I would sell Trent, because I don't think he justifies that price tag. It's just the fixtures that's making me think maybe you don't need to sell him just yet. Yeah, so in that sense, maybe I prioritize selling cash among those three. Should I sell? Tom says, should I sell Son for a West Ham mid like Bowen or Kudus and have money elsewhere? I wouldn't sell Son just yet. Definitely not for Bowen. He's a bit of a risk. Kudus, I think you could wait a while, right? So I don't see a real need to sell Son this week. In fact, there are people thinking about captaining him. Darren says, I was thinking because Darwin didn't start for a while after the international break. I also don't have Haaland, so Alvarez is my option in for City attack. So I think, the way I see it is Darwin is their best attacker now. Their best number 9. They're playing Man City, who is arguably their toughest opponent, away from home. So I don't see a world where they can afford to rest Darwin Núñez. If he's fit, I think they at least get about 60 to 70 minutes out of him and then give him an early rest. Trini says, who are the best non-Haaland forwards for 14 to 18? I think Solanke is pretty decent for fixtures. Solanke is pretty good for fixtures. Darwin Núñez as well, because Liverpool's fixtures are really good from 14 to 16. Newcastle, pretty alright as well. I think if you're looking at all the way until 18, from 17 and 18 they have Fulham and Luton. 19 they also have Nottingham Forest. So Isak is also an interesting one. It's just a question of whether he's fit. Wilson will be out for quite a while. Nicholas Jackson, if you do want him from Gameweek 16 onwards, can be considered. And I think it's pretty much Chris Wood then if you want to go really cheap. We discussed Nottingham Forest fixtures for a couple of minutes just now. So yeah, I think that's pretty much where I would go to if I'm looking for non-Haaland forwards for this time period. Is Nicholas Jackson worth a punt? I would say definitely not at this point in time, but come game week 16, maybe. Hi Leon, would you do Trent to Reece James? Will I have enough to do Alvarez to Haaland then game week 16? Then I would 100% make that move, because it is part of the plan to bring Haaland back in. For those of you guys who don't have Haaland yet, I think you need to start thinking about how to bring Haaland back into your team sooner rather than later. Palmer has the best fixtures and minutes from 14 to 8. Maybe not fixtures, but minutes, I think he should be fine. Alright, so we've kind of streamed for about close to 2 hours. I think 1 hour and 45 minutes. So thank you guys for tuning in. I will probably stick with this team. I don't think I'm going to go too different. I doubt the leaks would change this too much as well. So once again, Areola in goal, Livramento, Marikash, Gehi. Midfield is Saka, Adingra, Son, Salah, vice captain. Bowen, who's flagged, will be in my team. I'll have Archer off the bench if in case Bowen doesn't play. Then up front, I'll have Haaland captain and Watkins as the other striker. Alright, so there we go. Thank you guys for tuning in. Alright, let me just take some last questions. For those of you guys who I haven't answered your questions yet, just drop it in the chat before we end the stream. Vincent says, long term, would you rather Trippier / Baldock or James and Walker? Long term, James and Walker. Right, so there we go. Okay, thank you everyone for tuning in, for all the super chats today. All of it will go to charity. For all those who subscribe as well, thank you very much for all the support across the international break. And yeah, I'll see you guys in more Game Week 14 content soon. Right, so all the best for Game Week 13. I wish you guys the best, and hopefully we get green arrows. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye bye.